Unified School Board to order at 7:04. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome. It's good to see you tonight. Please note that Ms. Borg is absent this evening, but the rest of the board is here. There is no action, no reportable action taken in closed session tonight. We need to reorder the agenda, so may I please have a motion to reorder the agenda, to move the recognition section to right now.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, moved by Dr. Fernando and seconded by Mrs. Reuter. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, moved and seconded. So now we will have our recognition section. Mr. Eric Osborne, will you present for us, please?
Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent, Cabinet. Thank you for allowing me to recognize some amazing individuals. I'm actually going to have them come up. Greg, Judy, Diane, can you guys come up, please? Yeah. Absolutely, we can clap. You guys could come right up here. Get to embarrass you guys a little bit. So I'm sure the board has heard about Pack the Patrol Car. Pack the Patrol Car is an incredible program designed to support all of GUSD students. These are 3 members of a larger team that I'd like to recognize today for their hard work. They spent a large part of their summer seeking donations from the community. They were able to drop off at Walmart and the police station and various businesses here in Glendora for the sole purpose of supporting the physical needs, meaning the school supplies for our children. Not only did they collect all of the donations, they worked really hard as a team to stuff over 450 backpacks with those school supplies, and we distributed 321 backpacks to students in need in GUSD. So. Such a tremendous team. I was very fortunate to get to know them a little bit better this summer and work alongside them. And we just want to recognize you and the rest of the team members. So Greg, Judy, Diane, thank you so much for being here. And again, to the rest of the Glendora Auxiliary who supported us, thank you so much.
Hey, photos.
Whoa, we need pictures.
Photos, come on up.
Thank you.
Okay, do any of the board members want to make any comments to them? No? Okay, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Sometimes we think because we live in Glendora that we don't have needs, and obviously we do. So that is a lot of backpacks. Thank you so much. We will move on now to Dr. DeGrazia.
Bring this back down to earth. Mr. Osborne's pretty tall. Bring the mic down a little bit. Craig and Judy and Diane, congratulations. Those are stalwarts in our community. Fellow Kiwanis members as well, so much appreciation to you. It's my honor to recognize Mr. Will Carter, our Director of Information Technology. For the past 3 years, Will has served our district in a highly leadership technology capacity. He has recently let us know that he's accepted a position as the Director of Informational Technology Services at El Camino College. Will, come up. I'd like to say a few more words about you. As I said, he served us for 3 years. And before coming to us, Will served as the tech lead at a nonprofit organization. I think it was in Los Angeles, right? North Hollywood. And we are very thankful for his work during these past 3 years, the integration of new technology throughout the district, especially in the COVID pandemic. Put laptops in everyone's hands in a very short amount of time, integrated wiring across the district as well. And his efforts are very, very much appreciated, software and hardware throughout. His commute is going to greatly change. He's been coming to us from Santa Clarita every day. So he's relocated and he'll be within 6 miles of work. The first time, and I think maybe his entire adult life, or maybe even more, that'll have such a short commute. 6 miles, 15 minutes. So not too bad. Please join me in welcoming Will and congratulating him and thanking him for his service to Glendora, and wish him the best in his new position. Thank you.
I would just like to thank Glendora for this opportunity. It was a pleasure working for the district. I really liked the projects that we got to work on, specifically with the infrastructure upgrades that we did, the hyperconverged data center, our Wi-Fi upgrades. I also liked how we rapidly transitioned for the response to COVID with all the new technology for our teachers and our faculty and staff. It was really a pleasure, and I wish Glendora the best going forward. And thank you.
Now, I would just like to say something if I could. I don't know. Why is my technology not working right now?
That's how it works.
All right.
I'm going to just talk out loud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to add one thing. I don't know how many of you all know this, but we got the order to go from what we thought was going to be either going to in-person or hybrid learning to full distance learning with 6 weeks notice from the state. And that meant we needed computers in the hands of all teachers and every student in this district. And we needed a platform for everybody to use to be able to teach through. And the infrastructure, because, I mean, we needed hotspots, we needed everything under the sun to make that happen. And Will and his team worked around the clock. I mean, that 6 weeks went like that. And we were up and running, and we had those computers in the hands of children. We had those laptops in the hands of our teachers. They were all like ready to go. They had all their what do you call them all? Their program. They were white glove. They had all their programs downloaded. They had everything on them. It was incredible, absolutely incredible work. So hats off to you for leading that and to your team. That was so much, and I don't know how many people really realized what had to happen in 6 weeks. It was really that short a length of time. And then of course all of the needs continuing now that you have that many computers in a district, right? So I do appreciate all your work and helping us move forward with digital integration. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. Picture?
Okay, now it's just about time for public comment. Oh, any of the people that we recognize tonight, if you don't want to stay, you may leave if you want, or you may stay. It's going to be exciting. Thank you so much again. We appreciate that.
Greg is so sweet. He and his sister-in-law are so sweet. Oh, yeah. They are amazing. They're in Kiwanis, and they're just the best.
Okay, Board Bylaw 9323, meeting conduct. The board president shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings. Persistent disruption by an individual or group shall be grounds for the president to terminate the privilege of addressing the board. Government Code 54957.9. The board may remove disruptive individuals and order the room cleared if necessary. In this case, members of the media not participating in the disturbance shall be allowed to remain, and individuals not participating in such disturbances may be allowed to remain at the discretion of the board. When the room is ordered cleared due to a disturbance, further board proceedings shall concern only matters appearing on the agenda. In the event that any meeting is willfully interrupted by a group or groups of persons so as to render the orderly conduct of such meeting unfeasible, an order cannot be restored by the removal of individuals who are willfully interrupting the meeting. The members of the legislative body conducting the meeting may order the meeting room cleared and continue in session. Only matters appearing on the agenda may be considered in such a session. Representatives of the press or other news media, except those participating in the disturbance, shall be allowed to attend any session held pursuant to this section. Nothing in this section shall prohibit the legislative body from establishing a procedure for readmitting an individual or individuals not responsible for willfully disturbing the orderly conduct of the meeting. The Board of Education welcomes input from the public in order to discuss district business in an orderly manner for the privacy and safety of the speakers and to help staff respond more directly. The board policies require that public presentations to the board comply with the procedures listed below. Speakers are asked to complete speaker cards available on the table at the entrance of the boardroom. If possible, turn in the speaker cards to the administrative assistant prior to the start of the meeting. If not, once the speaker cards have all been called forward, the presiding board officer will ask if there are any additional speakers. Public comments to non-agenda items may address only items that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Time allotted for such presentation is limited to 3 minutes per comment. Total time allotted, we have decided not to enforce the 20 minutes per item. Public comments to agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per agenda item. Again, we will forego the 20 minutes. Public comments may not relinquish time to another. Public comments should include the commenter's name and adhere to applicable time limits. Complaints against employees or students will normally be heard in closed session, and the district's complaint procedure should be followed before discussion with the board. The board may remove disruptive individuals and order the room cleared if necessary. GC 54957.9. Any person who willfully disturbs any public school or public school meeting is guilty of a misdemeanor. Okay. we have the card, Eva. There's a bit of a lull between here and outside. We'll turn the time over to Dr. Kelson now so she can do her staff presentation.
Good evening. Okay.
Nadia, go ahead, please.
Good evening, Dr. De Leon and esteemed members of the school board. Tonight I will be giving a student board report on the behalf of Cullen, Stanton, and Sutherland Elementary Schools, Sandburg Middle School, and Glendora High School. At Cullen, students enjoyed the first assembly of the year. It was a net assembly held virtually that delivered messages of persistence, practice, perseverance, among others. For the week following the assembly, Cullen upper graders shared daily messages from NED and led the school in reciting the NED pledge. They're looking forward to their move-a-thon, which this year, like last, will be a family event in light of COVID restriction. Stanton has had fall school portraits, a monthly spirit day where students earn prizes for AR and behavior, as well as their fifth graders leading cheers, and a vision and hearing screening for TK, kindergarten, second, and fifth grade. Good News Club began last week and is meeting outside. Teachers met with the principal to discuss and agree upon their goals and objectives for the school year. Teachers sent home their first round of progress reports, sharing with parents areas of needed work and ways to support this. Sutherland is taking October to focus on student mental health with Friendship Month. In light of Bullying Prevention Month, Sutherland is promoting healthy problem solving and conflict resolution through various lessons and activities. Students will engage in random acts of kindness and send positive messages to friends throughout the month. The Student Support Specialist has been supporting teachers with lessons, activities, and strategies, as well as hosting a weekly social gathering of students called Lunch Munch. This month will conclude with Red Ribbon Week, where PTA will provide themed days for students to participate in to bring awareness. Sandburg has begun handing out excellence referrals for exemplary students on campus. 5 7th grade boys were recognized for assisting the noon duty supervisors to retrieve playground balls that were left out on the courts at the end of lunch. Intramural sports take place every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after school, which include basketball, volleyball, and cross country. Homework club also takes place on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to help students get their homework done. Avid hosted a fundraiser at Chick-fil-A on October 7th. Thank you to Chick-fil-A as well as everyone who came out to support. Red Ribbon Week will also take place at the end of the month to encourage healthy habits. At Glendora High School, Homecoming Week was a resounding success. At the assembly, King Dominic Spagdis was crowned and seniors were present at the event for the first time in almost 19 months. The recording of the assembly is on the GHS YouTube channel for those who missed it. Next was the homecoming parade, which included Grand Marshal Indu Afondalur, the GHS football team, cheer squad, class floats, and princesses. We are grateful to also have school district and city dignitaries take part in the fun event. That night, GHS defeated Ayala 21-7 at our homecoming game, where Caroline Durgatsarian was crowned queen. Homecoming week wrapped up on Saturday with the greatest show, where GHS students were able to dance, eat snacks, and take part in numerous carnival-like games. We had record attendance, and it was a night to remember for all. Thank you to Mrs. Clune and all of the Glendora teachers and staff who made this night possible. On Wednesday, October 13th, GHS will host its first ever site-based SAT exam. Senior students were able to sign up to take this exam on our campus during the school day. On October 27th, APU will be offering their second annual on-the-spot admission, which means students can apply and find out if they are accepted right away. GHS counselors and teachers continue to lead discussions on how to best support our students who are struggling with mental health issues. Mental health continues to be a priority on campus, and staff will continue to find ways to ensure all students feel supported and heard. On Wednesday, October 6th, the GHS volleyball program hosted their Digs for a Cure game, where funds were raised for City of Hope. In spirit of this, on Thursday, October 14th, GHS will go pink during the school day with an all-campus pink picture during lunch, a pink out scheduled for field hockey games that day, and for varsity football that evening against Colony High School. We are proud of our Terns for getting involved and bringing awareness to this important cause. And finally, the GHS Drama Department, in combination with the GHS Choral Department, is hosting auditions on today and tomorrow for the Charlie Brown musical. We are looking forward for this exciting event in December. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Very nice.
Mr. Osborne, are we ready?
we good to
We're
go?
ready?
Okay.
Eva.
Thank you, Nadia. That's good.
My name is Eva, and I am very, very concerned Glendora resident. I am an immigrant from Poland, and I can tell you first-hand stories about living in communist country. And you know what? I have great impression, so communism is here. And don't fool yourself, so we are far away from this. No, this happened. And you know, I have a question. Do you believe parents are the primary authority for their children medical and educational decision? Or do you believe that along with the state, do you believe that you, along with the state, are the primary authority for our kids? I am mother, I am grandmother, and I'm grandmother for my neighborhood children. Your answer to this question will tell us what we need to know about motives as school board members and employees of the government. Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the voice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Okay. Next, we have Diane Brennan.
Hear me okay? Okay. Oh, my glasses. So this is my first time coming to a meeting here. And I have 2 children. That one is still attending the high school, and one is in college. And I have 2 stepchildren that did attend, and they are done with college. I wanted to talk to you about critical race theory. And before I do, I wanted to ask if somebody on this board can share with me what you're understanding. What is critical race theory? I would like you to give me a sentence or 2 of what your understanding is of what that is. And I guess I'm looking at the Vice President.
Well, this is a public comment time.
Okay.
It's against the Brown Act for us to respond, so we will just listen to you.
Critical race theory teaches that people are either oppressor or oppressed, meaning they're good or bad, based on their race. Critical race theory rejects objective truth, reason, and empirical evidence. Instead, they assert that only identity and oppression matter. Society is divided according to whether one is a member of an oppressor or oppressed group or groups. Together, these twin principles of power and knowledge are undermining confidence in the foundations of liberalism, equality, universality, and individual rights. So what is critical race theory? Unlike traditional civil rights, which embraces incrementalism and step-by-step progress, critical race theory questions the very foundations of the liberal order, including equality theory, legal reasoning, enlightenment, rationalism, and neutral principles of constitutional law. CRT proponents reject the foundation premise of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. That CRT and equal critical theories view all Western values, including the nuclear family, religious freedom, and Judeo-Christian conceptions of morality, as inherently oppressive. Martin Luther King, we all know who that was, Jr., I would hope, dreamed that his children would then one day live in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Contrary of King's dream, in a society dominated by CRT ideology, one's race is the most important aspect of a person's identity. It determines whether he is an oppressor or oppressed. In schools where CRT influenced curriculum is introduced, students are told to judge classmates as good or bad according to the categories of oppressed or oppressor. Schools that adopt CRT-based... Thank you.
Carrie Magana.
Yeah, it's a little cold out there. Die on that hill. Hello, yes, you already know me, but for the record, I'm Carrie Mangana, concerned Glendora resident, not what the fake news and corrupt FBI labels us to be. Let me just make that clear. Okay, I'm just a concerned parent is all. It's brought to our attention that Penny's contract states in Section 10, the superintendent shall also be reimbursed for one-time moving expenses relocating the superintendent's residence to LA County, not to exceed $10,000. This now begs the question, has Penny De Leon, GUSD superintendent, in fact relocated to Glendora or their surrounding neighborhoods? Has the city officially shelled out this money for her to move to LA County or not? We need a clear answer. We deserve a clear answer. I'm asking for a public records request for proof of the county in which Penelope De Leon lives. I'm also asking for a public records request documentation that gives a clear answer about whether or not my tax-paying dollars have been paid to Penny for such a move. Parents and citizens have the right to know, number one, is Penny abiding by her contract? Number two, is Penny representing GUSD by living in the county she helps represent? Penelope De Leon greatly values the partnership of Glendora families, as she stated in her letter leading up to the first day of school. We can only hope that she is an ethical, law-abiding government employee, as well as a partner in our children's education. Parents are losing hope extremely quickly, not only in our government, but also in this board.
Janet Kubak.
We've lived in this district for over 37 years. We've raised 4 children and credit a lot of their outcome as good and upright citizens with solid careers to GUSD back then. My husband is a retired firefighter. I retired from this district after 27 years as a substitute teacher. First, we really need to follow the science. A report from the Brownstone Institute states, from the beginning of March 2020 lockdowns for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the subject of natural immunity has been neglected. Once the vaccination became widely available, what began with the near silence at the beginning turned nearly into a complete blackout of the topic. Even now, there is an absence of open discussion, presumably in the interest of promoting universal vaccination and required documentation of such vaccination as a condition of participation in public life and even jobs marketplace. These studies demonstrate what was and is already known. Natural immunity for SARS-type virus is robust, long-lasting, and broadly effective, even in the case of mutations, generally more than vaccines. And I humbly plead with you to allow us for freedom of choice. And we're going to visit the Constitution real quickly. Paragraph 2. We hold these truths to be evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers, just powers, from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Let's unite and work together. As stated in the weekly memo to families, the mandate will not likely take full effect until the next school year. However, children should not be subjected to this with so little information on long-term effects. They have already suffered so much. In the near future, those students who do not comply in getting the emergency use authorization vaccine have to return to online learning or homeschool. It's not a mandate, it's an ultimatum. So I plead with you again for freedom of choice. Let the parents be parents, not the school district or state or federal government, especially when it comes to decisions regarding their health and education. In closing, I leave with you a speech delivered by Ronald Reagan. It states, here we go, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on to them so that they can do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. So please revisit.
Lenore Craig.
I'm a retired teacher from GUSD. I know many of you. I've been, for the past year and a half, heartbroken at the way this district direction it's taken. There continues to be so much disunity, unhappiness, distrust, and it breaks our hearts. And now there's other problems coming in from the powers that be. We're facing the mandates from Sacramento. The community is speaking out loudly. It's not just a few. Loudly against these mandates. They want you to begin to listen. You say you must comply, but you don't. You can do something. You can take action. I have seen districts up and down the state of California pouring out and fighting against these things. The mandates for this vaccine, the masks, CRT. You need to start listening. If you band together, start trying, working harder, combining your efforts with all these districts up and down the state, and speak to Sacramento. Show your voice, do something for us. This vaccine on kids is dangerous. It has 1,500 cases reported to the CDC VAERS of heart trouble on children 12 and up. 890 have been confirmed. Sweden has stopped vaccinating their children. They should not put this poison in their bodies, and we should not allow it. If you do, I'm afraid you're going to see the numbers of this district drop. You are going to lose so many students, so many teachers. I've seen it, I'm hearing it, I'm knowing what's being planned, because they are seeing it coming because you haven't listened to anything that has been said for the past year and a half. What else did I want to say? Okay, let's go back. I went off script here. The ethnic studies, CRT. We know what ethnic studies means. That has to be addressed. You were going to do a study session. Where did that go? Haven't heard anything about that. We'd like to hear what you have to say about that. You've heard voices tonight about that. I don't think the district needs equity training. We need the students to learn compassion and empathy. For the years I taught in Glendora, I had my students doing service projects at the school, learning to give of themselves to others, taking the eyes off themselves and putting them on others. I had them going out in the community and doing service projects. I had them raising money to do service for kids in another nation. You have to start instilling these things and not bringing CRT, which will just bust them apart.
Thank you,
so
Mrs.
pay
Craig.
attention to the mandates. And
Sandra's watching.
Okay, I'm going to call one person, and then I will have the next person on deck. My husband's at the Dodger game, so got to get that in there. Okay, Caitlin Jones, and then Justin Rigoli.
Hello, Glendora School Board. I am coming to you as a mom of a 13-year-old boy and an 8th grader, and as a former school district employee. I want to start with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this freedom to meet with these board members. By the power of Jesus' name and with the authority his name carries, we humbly ask that you bind any evil in this district that stills, kills, or destroys our children's lives and academics. Please convict the hearts of the school board, Holy Spirit, and give them the boldness to use their authority for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Most importantly, I want to remind this board that each of you will be judged individually for how you vote concerning these agenda items. Second, to remind you that as of today, we still live in a republic. And that means that we, the people, elected you. That you represent our voices. And that we also understand that if you choose not to represent us and our voices, we hold the ability to recall your seats and to hold you liable. I want to speak directly to the Glendora board. Zandra, you have grandchildren in this school district. You need to protect them. It seems though your 5 years as president has brought nothing but tyranny, and you should be ashamed of your leadership. Good thing your seat comes available next year. Mr. Fernando, as a previous academic officer for a Christian college and an independent journalist exposing the narrative of this world, you should be the one that's the salt and light on this board, exposing the evil. There should always be one opposing vote, and that should be yours. Elizabeth and Robin, you both were extremely active PTA members exercising your God-given parental rights. You both should fully understand and defend the voices of our Glendora parents. Why are you taking them away? And Mr. Corey Ellenson, we're saving the best for last. Are your Glendora parents aware that you are not only a member of, but the master of the local Masonic Lodge? Also, with no children in this district. What are you doing on the school board besides infiltrating it? You also seem to have your hand in every area of the city, including the health committees and taxes. Good thing your seat also comes available next year. Do your research, parents. Complacency is killing your parental rights. They will take their children from you, and it's time to replace them. Game on.
Okay, after Justin Rigoli, Andrew Rivas will be next. Oops, didn't have the microphone on. Justin Rigoli, Andrew Rivas.
Hi guys, my name's Andrew. You might remember me from last time speaking here 2 weeks ago. And I support these parents 100%. I don't have any children. I have a brother who's a senior here. And we're sick of this crap. We're not gonna comply with it. You guys represent us, and you're not doing that. It's our God-given right to exercise what we feel, and we're not supposed to listen to you. I'm gonna read the gospel to you right now. Matthew 28, verse 18 says, "And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go forth and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And I, lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." You guys are not listening to what he commanded you at all. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves for what you're doing right now. We're supposed to be protecting our kids. And recently, the Pfizer vaccine just came out saying that they have fetus cells in the vaccine. And if you guys call yourself Christians, then you wouldn't do this at all. I'm a born-again Christian, and I'm happy to say that. I'm sure some of you guys are. But you're not acting like it right now. I don't know if you guys have heard of this document. It's called the United States Constitution. Maybe it's a little bit outdated for you. And it gives our rights, God-given rights, to protect the government and such people like yourselves from infringing on our rights. And I'm also going to read a Bible verse right now from Timothy right now. I have it on my phone. Give me a sec. 2 Timothy 4:7 says, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the fight, the faith." We're Christians. We're not going to let you infringe on our children. We're going to protect them. So guys, I want you to listen carefully, and you guys better listen up. As from my understanding, I know the superintendent here used to work in Ventura, and she has 2 pending lawsuits against her. I will be more than happy to file a lawsuit with these wonderful people out here and to her. She needs to resign immediately. She does not represent us, and in the end, we're American. Last time I checked, this was America. Not communist China, not communist Cuba, but America. And I'm going to end with a couple things, 2 more things. I have this right here on my phone. From the preamble, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Keyword is liberty there, folks. To ourselves and prosperity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. Appreciate your comments.
I'm going to end with a prayer.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Your time is up.
Just call the next one.
Our next speaker is Tara Patton, and after that is Tim Crimmins. Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Tara Patton and then Tim Crimmins is on deck.
As taxpayers in this community, we should have a voice in where our money is spent. As taxpayers in this community, we should have a voice in what is taught in our classrooms. This government, our school boards, this school board in particular, has plans to groom and indoctrinate our children. Critical race theory, RISE, whatever guise you want to call it under, is a lie from the pit of hell. Our children don't look at each other as different until they are told and taught that they are different. Creating oppressors and oppressed mindsets will surely be the cause of an all-out race war in the future. I will stand firm in fighting against this with all of my might. I will remind every child that they are a child of God first, and they are beautifully and wonderfully made. It would be easy for me to stand on the sidelines, but that's not what God has called me to do. I will fight for my children and yours. There are so many pushing and fighting against me that they don't understand that I'm fighting for their children as well. I am not called to take on the tactics of the left. You won't see me verbally attacking others. My biggest weapon is truth. It always wins. Truth is what you fear the most. This is exactly why the third-party investigation that the board once thought appropriate and beneficial is now tabled. I ask you why, even though I know the answer. You're afraid of the truth. Your rules and your mandates will run our schools in this country into the ground. We see it happening now. I believe there is only one member on this school board that cares about us and this community, and she knows who she is. The rest of you will not be here. The rest of you will not be here a few short years down the road, but you'll still have to give an account for your actions while you were here. You said you wanted to work with the community to build a bridge. I remind you that you answer to somebody higher than us, and he always wins in the end. Stand with us, fight for us, protect and prioritize the children that you're here to serve. They, in the end, are bearing the brunt of something that was never meant to be theirs. Thank you.
Okay. Tim Crimmins is next, and then Grant Leach.
Good evening. I initially was going to talk about curriculum availability. I received an email, Prince, tonight at 6:30 after about a 2-week wait. But kind of the gist of it is 2 weeks ago, she saw me and she mentioned that she owed me an email about making curriculum available and whether the ARIES program could be made capable for parents and other citizens to view it, and or if we could have a central place where the texts were available. She since clarified some of that, but 2 weeks ago her answer to me was that they didn't have the extra texts. And I asked her to clarify that we didn't have one extra text for review for parents, and she said yes. And so that seemed like an odd answer. I bring it to you because I don't think it's possibly an accurate answer. And the question is, if that's true in some or any of the classes, what child is going without a book while the people review it? If we're cutting things that close, it doesn't seem realistic or good to me. But she's clarified some issues tonight at 6:20 before the meeting. There's been a lot of issues brought up here tonight, a lot of sensitive issues. I do want to voice my concern, too, that this board has repeatedly made mention that they were going to have a CRT workshop. And then I hear now that you're getting a consulting group and that you're retaining consulting group for equity. That seems like, I guess several of these things seem like passive-aggressive behavior. It's a lot better to just state your case and we can agree to disagree, but passive-aggressive behavior is rather cowardly, and it's really not appreciated. Fine to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything. We can still be respectful of each other. And on the final note that I had about CRT and race relations, I had the privilege for 31 years to live, eat, work, and play with people of all different races because it was part of my job and we lived together. And I came to the conclusion long ago that color is not the deal. The deal is there's good people and bad people, and behavior defines somebody. And I wish that the board would concentrate more on character than color. The final thing that I had to say was, as I go about my business, I go to different areas, and I see lots of schools with STEM programs. But maybe there is a STEM program in Glendora. I'm not aware of one, but I think that would be a really good use of our resources, probably a better use than some of the other programs and consulting firms. Thank you.
Thank you. Grant Leach, and then Sarah Costales.
Hello everyone, my name is Grant, and as someone who went through this school system not that long ago, there's no possibility I would ever send my kids here now. Parents, for a full year, your children were robbed of any meaningful educational experience because teachers' unions didn't feel like driving to work. Now, after all that time away, your kids are forced to muzzle themselves and told to live in fear of something that presents about an equal risk to them as being struck by lightning. They also want to force your child to inject something into their body to protect them from something that presents about an equal risk to them as being struck by lightning. Conditioning children to live in fear for no reason is psychological abuse. And what has the school board done about this? They've gone along with it. And then there's the false history presented in CRT that they want to teach your children. This ideology causes people to think of themselves not as individuals, but rather as members of racial groups. Teaching children to hate themselves or that the entire world is out to get them because of the color of their skin is psychological abuse, and not only that, is complete nonsense. But of course, false history such as CRT is nothing new. I mean, I was taught that some abstract inherent failing of capitalism was the cause of the Great Depression, so of course the benevolent government, with the help of the brilliant self-appointed experts, sound familiar, needed to get involved in every aspect of the economy when any economist worth their salt will tell you that those very interventions were the exact thing that transformed a depression into the Great Depression. The government saved America from free enterprise is the narrative that I was taught in school. I don't know about you, but that seems to be pretty convenient. That's the narrative told in government schools. So the goal has always been to instill a certain narrative in students. This is nothing new. Critical race theory is just the latest installment in this false narrative, and if future citizens are raised to think of each other in these racially divided, collectivist, us versus them terms, then the whole notion of individual rights goes out the window, and history has shown the terrible atrocities that this kind of group-minded thinking has led to. So why does the school board allow this? Well, we all can come up here and complain to them all we want, but they really have no incentive to care about what any of us think as long as people keep sending their kids here and their bosses keep getting the money. And you and I aren't their boss. They don't answer to us. Gavin Newsom is. Think about it this way. When Walmart does something you don't like, you don't go to the board of Walmart to complain about it. You stop going to Walmart and giving them money. And Walmart either adapts or goes out of business. The same principle applies here. If what they're doing bothers you, then, if at all possible, take your kids out of here and put them through private or homeschooling. Because ultimately, who's in control of what your kid is taught? Is it you or is it the government? Thank you.
Sarah, and after Sarah, Susan Bennett.
Hello. This has been fun so far. So thank you for this party. I think we're all hearing a lot of big feelings and a lot of big thoughts. My presentation isn't really either. I kind of wanted to just dumb it down and remind all of ourselves some of the basics. One, I think we're all aware now that this board and Glendora Unified have nothing to do with these rules that people either really like or really don't like. Second of all, thank you. My turn. These mandates and orders from the county are from the county or from the state. So we're not originating any of this fun and games in G-Town itself. We're also collectively aware that if this board fails to comply with the rules, that some of the main consequences that I've come up with, I'm sure I'm missing some, but losing major funding, losing the board's local governance, going bankrupt from lawsuits, and or being shut down completely, all of which sound like a no-go for me. I'm thrilled that my kids are back on campus. There is a big group of us that are so grateful for what you're doing, for showing up here every day and taking this day in and day out. We are not the loud ones. We're not making signs and petitions and recalls and all of that. We may not even show up regularly at these meetings because we're really kind of the group that just prefers to get the work done and stay at home with our glass of Chardonnay and watch all the melee take place. But we needed to be here tonight to at least let you know for sure that this is a very diverse group of people here in Glendora. It's not at all a one-size-fits-all, and we need to stop acting and behaving like there's a one-way direction here. We are a very normal community with lots of different opinions, and the bottom line is nothing at the Glendora School Board level boils down to anybody's individual opinion. I think that we need to remind folks that they need to be advocating at the county and state level, and we need to just play nice in the sandbox here. Thanks.
Thank you. Susan Bennett, and then John Harold.
First of all, I have to say, what were you thinking? You guys just kicked somebody out who wanted to pray over you, for one, and I'm disgusted. My name is Susan, and I just want to thank you for your time today. I've been watching a lot of what I'm up against and what we're all up against. And I have a few thoughts about the student vaccine mandates. There was a pandemic that stopped the world as we knew it. It started as a cycle to stop the spread for 2 weeks, to keep wearing a mask permanently, to there's going to be a vaccine for people who are most at risk, which is 65 and older and compromised people, to what the heck, where are we now? What happened to having a choice? People argue that vaccines were for people argue that vaccines for kids have always been mandated, and that is simply not true. There has always been a religious exemption as well as medical exemptions. Never did any of those people have to wear a mask or be tested twice a week, and that is discrimination, causing serious stress along these kids and bullying. I ask, why is all of this gone? It's very simple. This has nothing at all to do with the safety of our kids, parents, teachers, or anyone else. We're in the biggest battle for government control that's beyond comprehension. The government has stripped away treatments that actually work for this pandemic. Why? Just ask yourself why. By November 1st, nurses, doctors, firefighters, police, military, teachers, and transportation experts will be fired if they choose not to receive this vaccine. Disgusting. There are frontline workers, and they need to keep their jobs. They are the most essential of all. As we are seeing many of the airlines being told that they are closed down, their people walked out, as we've seen in the news over the last 24 hours. They've decided to walk out to take sick and vacation pay, leaving thousands stranded, and I support them. Did you know that 80% of the pilots are ex-military? These people fought for your rights and freedoms. Ask yourself, are the kids at risk? The answer is no. They are not at risk in any way. Then why the vaccine? There are no human testings being done, no studies on children at all. This pandemic...
Thank you so much, Ms. Bennett. We really appreciate your comments. We have John Harold, and then I think Mr. Justin Rigoli was ready. You can go ahead, Mr. Harold. Well, no, go ahead because we're waiting for him to come in.
Well, I know, but that wouldn't be fair then.
Okay, then we will wait. Is Mr. Rigoli out there?
Buddy, I just want to start with a prayer if I can, please. Father, I just pray that you would just give us more time in this brief time that we have, Father, and in Jesus' name that you would galvanize this school board and the community to the truth, and Father God, that you would send an awakening and that you would hear from us, that they and us would be transformed people, God, that you would be the one speaking and working in this room, in this community, in this nation. So you guys probably know me, right? And I really don't know you. But I'm Justin, and I'm not really a public speaker. I'm usually behind the camera making videos about all of you guys, about all school boards for parents just in this community. And, you know, personally, I don't know any of you guys, but I do care about you, and I care about this community, and I care about all the parents and the kids, especially in this community. And that's why I'm here today. And I don't have any vested interest at all. I'm self-employed, so I don't have to worry about any vaccines or CRT or anything being forced upon me. I don't have any children in this community whatsoever. But here I am here today to speak on behalf for all these children, for all these parents, and to get the word out. And as much as I am here to speak to you, I'm here to speak to more parents. Because this is a revival, and this is a revival between everyone in this community, and I'm calling and I'm challenging all men. I'm challenging all men who are out in this community. There's about 100 parents out there sitting in the cold. It's 65 degrees with a wind chill of 50 degrees. If that's not love and dedication and perseverance, I don't know what is. Because right now it's 8:07, and these guys are out there eager to come in here and speak to you. So, you know, there have been less people in this world, and especially less men fighting for something much less than what we have today. So men, women, across all communities, we need to bring it together. We need to cross districts. We got people out there driving from LA and Temecula. Caitlin came from Temecula to speak to you today. So this is what we need to do. Parents, we need to come together. We need to come across districts. We need to bring it together. We need to bring more numbers, because next time we come here, okay, we're going to have a rally outside. We're going to have food vendors. We're going to have music. It's going to be a good time. And it's going to be a community-driven organization here to tell you all, because you already know the science. You know the science. So I'm going to leave you with a couple things before I go. And the one thing that I want to tell you is Samuel Adams, may your chains set lightly upon you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rigoli.
You are on our side.
Our next speaker will be John Harold. Thank you so much for your comments.
Sure that all of you are known.
Good evening. My name is John Harold. I mentioned the last time I'd be back. And I want to talk about one thing in particular, but first I want to talk about something that concerns me. As you know, I was a deputy district attorney for 37 years. I was a special attorney general for 7 years, and I've been a JAG officer for over 15 years. And I was greatly offended when the Attorney General of the United States of America, Merrick Garland, threatened to sic the FBI on parents. That is an abuse of power. It is an abuse of power. We have the Glendora PD. They do a wonderful job. I do not want to see FBI agents following parents around. I do not want to see FBI agents intruding in what's going on here in Glendora. We can handle Glendora. I know it gets rough up there sometimes. You don't got to tell me. Everyone knows that I sat up there and how rough it can get. But that's the Constitution. You take the good, you take the bad. Now, what I want to really talk about is the last time I was here, I made a public records request. I thought I was very clear on it. I hear people say we have to do this because the state of California is ordering us. If we don't do it, we'll lose our funding, we'll lose everything. Well, again, I was in government, and there's no need to have local government if all you're going to do is rubber stamp what the state tells you or the federal government. If we're going to just automatically do what they say, why do we need you? Why are we paying the money? The simple reason is government is local, and it should start at the local. You have and should follow state law, but you can't just follow it because they say so. There was a trial that I didn't get to go into, and that was at Nuremberg, where a bunch of Nazis got punished because they followed orders. They all said, we followed orders. And the clear rules that came out of there was, you don't follow orders. You do your own research. I asked you guys very specifically. You say there's to be a mandate. You say that children are to wear masks. Show me what you're basing it upon. Do your independent background checks to make sure it is. Because as I said, I came back from the Trial Lawyers Association in Las Vegas, and guess what? The manufacturers won't be sued, but guess who someone's going to sue down the road when some children have some problems? Guess who they're going to sue? They're going to sue the government. There was something called Agent Orange. You all remember it. And everyone said it was safe. No problem. And yet we had our soldiers inundated with the stuff. We're still paying billions of dollars for that. All I ask for is, what did you base your opinions on? I would like to see the documentation, the studies that are being done as we speak, so that we could know that what's happening to our children is being done for the right reason and not just because you're following orders. And also, I want everybody clear, I'm the local civil rights lawyer. If I see the FBI here, call me.
Mr. Harold, thank you. Okay, we have Lynn Cates, and then after that, Marco Villa.
I'm Lynn Cates. I have been sitting in on these meetings for a little over 6 months, and I decided it was probably time to speak. I keep getting a little more and more upset each time. I've been a resident of Glendora for over 20 years. This community has always had great schools and great teachers, but the current agenda that the school board is implementing is taking our city down. Our educational system and our children are being hurt as a result of the poor choices being made to change and segregate our community. In many board meetings and letters from the superintendent, we've been told that CRT will never be brought to our schools. And if the state mandates ethnic studies, we would have a chance to review and give feedback on the curriculum being introduced. Now, contrary to what we're being told, we see that you've hired a consultant to train your teachers and staff on equity and diversity, training which goes along the outline of CRT and ethnic studies. We elected you to represent us. We were never consulted or considered in your decision. It appears to me that this board doesn't care about this community. It only acts out of fear within state guidelines. I'm disappointed in your decision to work against us instead of with us. By continuing to choose what is good for your resume instead of what's good for our children, you are forcing parents to find alternative schools and educational choices for their kids. And this school district and your schools will suffer. Your current agenda is weakening our school district and dividing our community. It is time you do what you're elected to do and work with the taxpayers and the people in this community. We had a top-tier educational system that residents were proud of, and we would love it to stay that way. So I'm asking you to table the item to allocate $20,000 for a consultant to train our teachers on equity and social justice from the agenda and postpone it and give parents and community a chance to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. After Marco Villa, we'll have Debbie Neal.
Hi, Board. My name is Marco Villa. It's nice to meet you tonight. I don't know what your positions are. I have several children in the school, and I do know that there are certain health mandates that you're required to enforce, and I'd ask that you continue to enforce those. I know that there are some very vocal people here who are asking you not to, but I need you to, because I want the health and safety of our children to remain that. When this pandemic first started, people would say, "Do you know anybody who has COVID?" I didn't know anybody who has COVID. And look at us now. Everybody here knows somebody who has COVID. I think you'd be the exception if you said you didn't know somebody who has COVID. And then we started to hear people dying. And it wasn't just a cold. And now I know people who have died. Personally, I have family members who have died. I don't want that to be our kids. I don't want that to be their kids. If someone is elected here who is going to stand up and say that they're not going to enforce those mandates, then they'd be breaking the law. And you have to stand up to that. So I ask you to please continue to do that. This is something that we saw in the past. We saw this in the 1918 influenza pandemic. And while history does not repeat itself perfectly, it does rhyme. And one of the things that we heard back then was that there were people who were fighting against masks back then, just like there are today. But they have been saving people's lives, okay? The other thing that was thought of about vaccines was that it was going to harm people. It was going to turn people into lizards. We've heard that before. And so if there is a mandate to vaccinate children, just like there are mandates to give people vaccines today, I encourage you to enforce those as well. They are there to protect the lives of our children and their children. I also want to thank everybody who spoke here. This is not an easy thing to do. I know that the community is fired up about this topic. There's a lot at stake here. I want to thank those who prayed for us. I prayed for them too. And I hope that slowly we will heal as a community, and that I'm tired of these masks. I'm tired of them too, okay? It was fun the first time I went to a bank having to wear a mask, but yeah, I'm tired of it too. I want to see people's faces. I want them to see me smile at them when I say hello to a perfect stranger who may have a different opinion than I do. But it's time we talk to each other and not be rude to each other, not be mean to each other. I heard about this through friends because I don't have a social media account. But thank you for giving me the time, and please continue to support this.
My name's Debbie Neal. I am a graduate of Glendora High, and my two sons have also gone through Glendora School District. Several things. There's so much going on tonight. Ethnic studies as a high school requirement. I encourage each of you to fully read the entire model curriculum. I have read it. There are some very concerning issues in there. One thing that concerns me is that in the name of encouraging unity, chants are encouraged within a classroom, and some of those chants are prayers to Aztec gods, and one of the gods requires human sacrifice. Our kids should not be subjected to this kind of thing. Okay, that aside, I'm also concerned about the vaccine. What happened to my body, my choice? It's only convenient for abortion. That is not acceptable. I encourage you to be aware of the evolving definition of vaccination by the CDC. Pre-1915, the definition was an injection of a killed or weakened infectious organism in order to prevent the disease. From 1915 to 2021, it was called the Act of Introducing a Vaccine into the Body to Produce Immunity to a Specific Disease. And just last month, the definition was changed to the act of introducing a vaccine into the body to produce protection from a specific disease. Those words are key. They are meaningful. And the vaccine that is being presented and encouraged is not exactly what we would hope it would be. Individuals are protected by federal law from being forced to get shots based on medical issues, conscience rights, or sincere religious beliefs. I ask you to make sure that conscience rights and religious beliefs are respected. I ask that those rights not be evaluated and somebody try to determine, well, your religious beliefs are okay, but yours are not because you said this, you said that, and it can't be that way. I also agree with the people who spoke about
Next is Bruce Irvine, and then Jack McDonald, I think?
I can't. I think McDonald.
Something.
Yeah, Bruce Irvine, and then Jack McDonald. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. See, I'm going to share some data on COVID infections and deaths as a function of age group. The CDC breaks down deaths due to COVID by age group. So age groups 0 to 4, 9 to 11, 12 to 15, 16 to 17, on up through 85. So what I did is I took those numbers and calculated based on their percentage of our population, how many that is within their particular population, and then got them all in the same denominator. So now it's broken down in numbers per 100,000 people. So for example, the age group 12 to 15, it's 0.7 per 100,000, which is 7 per 1 million. Now compare that to the flu. 60,000 people per year on average die due to the flu. Now to get that in the same denominator, that's about 18 people per 100,000. So now let's compare COVID age groups to that number. That means youngsters from ages 16 to 17 are 29-fold less likely to die of COVID than the average citizen is to die of the flu. Age groups just below that, 33-fold less likely. we would not be mandating vaccines based on the flu. And these are numbers far, far less than what happens from the flu for this age group. Now, there is no written national mandate. There are LA County and state mandates. If you have the will, though, you may be able to transcend them with fluid definitions, as is common to the left. So what is a medical exemption? You may have some liberty if you're interested in defining what a medical exemption is. So please consider that it really ought to be free choice. The other concern is transmission, not just the individual's health, but their ability to transmit. And it's been well documented that youngsters, they don't often get symptoms. And when you don't get symptoms, you don't have much of a viral load and you're not sneezing, so you're not a very good transmitter. So transmission is very inefficient amongst children. Is that time?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We have Jack McDonald and then Anne Marie Loy.
Hi, my name is Jack McDonald, and I'm a junior at Glendora High School. I don't want to be taught that I'm an oppressor. Calling CRT ethnic studies doesn't make it okay. Since I'm a white male, am I going to be taught that I'm an oppressor? I've never oppressed anyone, and I don't want that to be put on me. Isn't that the definition of racism, judging me because of the color of my skin? Haven't we learned anything? I don't want a mask on my face. Is your agenda making young students sheep? They don't work. All they do is make us sick and give us headaches and sore throats from breathing in our own bacteria all day long. Maybe some kids and their parents believe that they're safer with masks. They can wear them. Why can't we have a choice? This doesn't feel like America. Sending students home due to COVID exposure when they're not sick is just putting us even more behind. But vaccinated kids don't have to miss school when they're exposed. Science has proven that the vaccinated people can get COVID and spread it. How is that fair? If we're all masked up, why are any of us missing school? Don't the masks work? I'm also tired of hearing from my liberal teachers how I should be vaccinated and only selfish people aren't. Am I selfish if I've already had COVID and don't want to be part of a medical trial that might make me sterile or have heart problems? Why do I know my liberal teachers' opinions? Is this a part of my public education? Are my conservative teachers allowed to preach to me? I have only heard from the liberal teachers. Should I even be talked about a teacher's political view if I'm not in government? Even then, aren't I supposed to hear both sides so I can make my own informed choice? Thank you for listening. I hope someone will help us.
We have Anne Marie Loy and then Elisa Economo.
My name is Anne Marie, and I just want to let you all know that everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but that's different than having facts. There's opinions and facts, there's lies and there's truth, and I have some truth and facts. Anyone hear of VAERS reports? How many have? What do you, oh my God, about? Thanks for stealing some of them from me. Yeah, so in the last 30 years, this is how many deaths from actual real vaccines, because what's out right now is not a vaccine. It's a nanoparticle, lipid, hydrogel, mRNA spike protein. Experimental death job. Or disabilitating. It doesn't always, I mean, it's, here you go. Here it is. Here's all the deaths in a matter of months. In 30 years, that's what you have here. And this, by the way, is only 1 to 10% of reported cases. So the cases you hear in the MSM are about as real as the flights being canceled due to weather. I'm telling you, educate yourself, inform yourself. As a nurse, I know what's going on behind closed doors. Is anyone aware that doctors are being threatened to be delicensed if they give exemptions? They're getting kickbacks from Big Pharma lining their pockets. I mean, is anyone aware of the truth? See, I believe in science, not CNN. I believe in facts, not opinions. I believe in truth, not lies. The numbers have been inflated for COVID, just like the side effects, the disabilities, and the deaths have been deflated. You guys are being lied to, manipulated, brainwashed. And before I miss out on my time, CRT. Penny, wasn't it not 2 or 3 times you've said that CRT would not be in our schools? Did you say that? Silence. Yeah. So now, all of a sudden, you can't follow through with what you said. We can't trust lies. Actions speak louder than words. You can say you're not going to have it in our schools. Ethnic studies is the same thing. You can't bury CRT with another fancy word and not think that we don't know what's going on. It's divisive, it's racist, it's dangerous, and it's indoctrinating. Our kids deserve better than what you're doing to them. And we parents are not going to stop. This is a hill we will die on. We're not going away anywhere.
Okay, Elisa Kanamu, and then Cameo Stanek.
Distinguished GUSD board members and Dr. DeLeon, I'm a mom of 3 children here in Glendora, and first I want to say thank you for all of the work that you've done to keep our kids safe and to get our kids back in school. Like Sarah mentioned before, there are plenty of us out there who really appreciate the work that you are doing, and we encourage you to keep up that work. Next, I want to say that I'm very frustrated that we are even having to have these meetings over state mandates, which is an issue that the school board has no jurisdiction over. So this is a colossal waste of time of yours and of ours, and it's frustrating for us that we have to be here. I understand that people are very upset about the current mandates that are going to be coming down the pipeline, but this is not the forum for that. You guys don't deserve this kind of treatment, and I understand you had a rough time the last 18 months. And people have talked about the idea of ignoring the mandate, and that comes with consequences. I've been in Glendora just for a short time. We would lose tons of funding, and it's been shown by our voting record that nobody here wants their taxes raised to make up for any kind of funding that we are lost if we were to violate a mandate. No bond's been passed. Avid schools are not there. That's not happening. People don't want to pay more, and they're not going to want to pay more if we lose any more of our funding for that. I would like us to be able to get back to a place where we're talking about actually making our schools better, talking about technology in our classrooms, talking about diversity, and talking about inclusion, helping our low-income students. That is going to help our entire district. Let's get some relationships with our local businesses to help our high school students get some real-world experience out there. These are the things that are actually going to make our district better, and that you guys actually are in a position to do something about. So that's all I wanted to say, but thank you very much for your work, and keep going.
Thank you. Okay, Cameo Stanek, and then Judy Nelson.
Hello, let me adjust here. Hi, I'm Cameo Stanek. I wear a lot of hats in my life, as I'm sure many of you do. But the most important one is that I'm also a parent to a child in the Glendora school system. I live and work here as well. And in fact, my husband and our son and I moved here for the school system. Primarily, it was our #1 reason for moving to Glendora. My message is short today. I wasn't even planning to speak, but just thought it was important to add my voice. First, just to express appreciation from what I'm observing, especially in recent months, is a really thankless job. So thank you for your time and your effort. I've heard many people in these various meetings, especially recently, yelling at you and just being pretty disrespectful and rude in a variety of ways, and about reminding you who you work for. I'm here as a reminder, too, about where, in fact, the majority of parents and caregivers in this district stand. Though we may be quieter, the majority of parents and caregivers in this district appreciate your upholding of science and facts, as well as following the health mandates that you're required to follow, and sticking to what is, in fact, within your control to begin with. So just wanted to appreciate you all, add my voice into the quieter but important larger group as it is for just appreciating the work that you're doing and the focus that you have. So again, keep going. We in fact do also want to keep our kids safe within the bounds of what we know about the science as it stands. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, after Judy Nelson is Wendy Jarvie.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your listening to all of us, and I appreciate everyone who's come tonight speaking on both sides of this issue. This is what we should have, is diverse opinions and both sides speaking. And thank you so much for extending your public comment time. I know it takes patience for you to be sitting here when you want to get to business, but this is a very important part of the meeting to those of us who are here to speak. I think that there is so much concern about what's happening in our country right now, our loss of freedoms, continued loss of freedoms, and it doesn't seem like a lot of them are for any good reason. We don't get it a lot of times. And I think that's a lot of the frustration that you're hearing here. We come to you to talk about our concerns because you are our local representatives and you're the ones that we can most easily reach out to. And I know when I was on city council, the city council had the ears of the next tier of representatives, the senators and Congress people and Board of Supervisors. And hopefully you all are taking our messages of concern to those people. That is what I think, why we're coming to talk to you, really, for a lot of things. A month or so ago, Dr. De Leon and Elizabeth and Zandra had a meeting with me and Bob Kuhn. We asked for it, and we talked about numerous topics. And at that time, we did talk about a curriculum, and we were told that to implement ethnic studies or critical race theory would take several years down the road, and we would definitely know about it before it was to be implemented. However, I saw on tonight's agenda that one of the consent calendar items is to approve to pay $20,000 to Nicole Anderson and Associates for teacher training starting now and going through the end of the year. And her website indicates that the focus of her teacher training is on educational equity, which I understand to be a component of critical race theory. Before the start of the school year, a handout came out, this one on the minds of many, trends in the curriculum, and it also stated that any topic, if a board policy is considered to be controversial, it is reviewed in advance with legal counsel. As an additional measure of transparency, whenever board policy is updated, it's presented to the community for consideration and comment. The public may comment on the policy presented. To me, the training that the teachers will receive regarding educational equity is a change in board policy, however subtle it might appear, and is definitely likely to be controversial, as you've heard people speaking about it already. I'm formally asking the board to pull that item off the consent calendar and to bring it back, if you would like, at the next meeting as a discussion item so we can hear your conversation about it, why you have decided to make that decision, and we can comment again at that time. When I was on city council, we often pulled items off the consent calendar. Sometimes one of the other council members would ask, sometimes someone in the audience would ask, and for the sake of transparency, we complied. We wanted people to feel like they knew what we were doing and could give their opinion. And also I will ask, has a date been set for holding the critical race theory workshop that Trustee Reuter requested at a board meeting back in August? Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay. After Wendy Jarvis, we have Linda Galeros.
Wendy Jarvie, and I'm a Glendora resident. Last week, Governor Newsom signed AB 101, the Ethnic Studies Approved Curriculum Bill, as a graduation requirement, just 2 years after saying the Ethnic Studies curriculum would never see the light of day. This isn't a bill allowing CRT to be taught in the schools. It is a bill requiring CRT to be taught in the schools. Not only is the model curriculum that was approved full of CRT, which I spoke about a month ago, it seeks to teach our children to be social justice warriors and divide them into communities, bringing segregation back to this free country. And it condemns white children as oppressors and people of color as victims being oppressed. The National Review called the curriculum the most radical, polemic, and ideologically loaded educational document ever offered up for public consideration in the free world. At the same time, our own GUSD board is prepared tonight to approve, without discussion, $20,000 for a consultant to train our teachers on equity and social justice by a consulting firm that is run by someone who wrote a publication in the California School Board Association that the educational institution is inherently racist. So if you're trying to get bias training from her, you're looking in the wrong direction. During the school board meeting about a month ago, Trustee Reuter asked the board and superintendent to hold a study session as a result of the numerous concerns that parents, grandparents, community members mentioned during the public comment period. I have been a part of the behind the scenes trying to get this meeting going to discuss it, but tonight with the proposal to hire a consultant that is teaching CRT to the teachers who will implement it in the class, it seems like a end around. So I'm formally asking that you pull the item for tonight until the discussion has been had that you proposed.
Okay. Linda Galeros. Linda Galeros.
People say was on the minds of people.
perfect timing. Thank you. Well, that was a very entertaining way to end public comments, unless that was the end of our cards. Is there anyone else who wants to make a public comment who did not turn in a card? Okay, that's the end of public comments.
Bio break before we reconvene.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break. Some of us. (8:46). We'll return in 5 minutes. We'll return about 8:51.
It's wonderful to be with everybody tonight. And that's kind of an interesting back echo. And it's been good to hear from community members on a number of issues representing a number of concerns, which I think it's been good to see a greater level of diversity here in Glendora from our community members. That's been a good thing. Just to continue to express my thanks to all our teachers that continue to engage our students. Our students are experiencing a number of realities in this post-remote, now in-person world. I know that we do have some students that are fully remote still through our GOAL program. And we do see increased need for mental health services, which I'm grateful for the school district's leadership that we've continued to staff in light of those needs. But I also want to just highlight the needs of our teachers that are facing at times students that can be physically and verbally aggressive. We've been seeing a rise of that, especially at our middle schools. And so especially I want to speak to those middle school teachers and aides that have experienced difficulty in the classroom, that have experienced violence in the classroom. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, the ways that you're engaging our students, the patience that it takes. I think this is something that I think many people were expecting but didn't know what the actual result was. And we're seeing the impacts of what the pandemic has meant for different children and what that has meant for our teachers. I want to continue to commend also the excellent homecoming festivities that happened over the weekend and the great victory of the Glendora football team over Ayala and the great kids that were selected as homecoming king and queen. I know them both personally. Dominic and Carolyn are great, great kids. They really represent the best of Glendora. One, I believe, is the drum major at the high school. The other one is an incredible leader that has been actually a student board member. He's been a baseball player. Both of them are excellent students. And I really am grateful to see those kinds of individuals being named the homecoming king and queen. And that is really why, at least for myself, that I became a board member, to represent those students that are really the fabric of our community. So with that, I'll end my comments.
Mr. Ellington.
Thank you. I wanted to echo what Dr. Fernando said about our students and some of the repercussions of the mental health issues that we knew would be inevitable coming out of the COVID shutdown. I read a study that anxiety and depression are each up about 26-28%, and particularly among young people. We knew it was coming. We have mental health professionals in place, but it's never okay, and you're never prepared to see it happen and to see the aggression towards our teachers and to imagine what our teachers are enduring every day. My heart goes out to them, and I am grateful to all of them for their professionalism and carrying themselves with poise and dignity during a very, very difficult time. We can only just put more energy and resources into this because it's not going to go away anytime soon. It's going to be a long school year for all of us. I want to thank the superintendent and cabinet for pitching in. I know you were doing lunch duty, supervising at our middle schools. I appreciate that all hands on deck mentality, that whoever can do it, jump in and do it. It's great teaming and wonderful to see that. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Mrs. Reuter.
My microphone. Oh, thanks, Will. I wanted to start by saying I had a really great time at the Goddard recognition lunch last week. I'm so happy that these sort of events are beginning to start back up this school year. It was out on the patio out in front of the gym, and it was frankly lovely, but really being able to sit there and chat with these students who have been selected to be recognized and hear what they were recognized for and the way they light up when they're talking about sort of their accomplishments or what their teacher was recognizing for them or recognizing about them. And then also hearing from the teacher about how things are going and why this kid is super cool in their class is what it really is all about. And I really did appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to all the future recognition lunches, brunches, and ceremonies that way. Thank you very much. I do want to say congrats to our Tartan football players for winning the homecoming game. The entire homecoming festivities for the whole week and throughout the course of the weekend, I want to thank our staff, Mrs. Clune, the entire ASB, all the administrators, all the teachers, everybody that put all the extra work into letting our high school and extended community participate in a traditional homecoming experience. I do want to make a little reminder, and I don't know that everybody knows this, and I don't know if we've ever talked about it before. I've received a couple of emails in the last couple of days that say, I look forward to your response. And the board has a policy that only the president responds to emails from the public. So if you don't get a response back from any of the other 4 board members, it's not because we don't want to respond to you, or it's not because we didn't read your email or anything like that. I certainly read every single email, and I believe all 5 of us do, but we have as a board policy that the president is the only person that responds to an email. So please just take note of that. And finally, and a couple people have mentioned it tonight, and I'm sorry that somebody had to mention it before I could talk about it, is the study session that I requested a couple of meetings back. And our staff has been working really hard to prepare for that study session. There have been subsequent meetings with members of the community to talk about the study session, all of that kind of stuff. So as we get ready to do this, on Friday, this past Friday, the state announced their ethnic studies graduation requirement. But that's all they did. They just announced it. They didn't send what it's going to be exactly. They just said for 29-30, here's what it's going to be. And I've heard from a lot of people tonight that that's a big concern, right? That they either support the ethnic studies requirement or they do not support an ethnic studies requirement. So what I would like to do, or I would direct Dr. DeLeon and her staff to do, is to bring a resolution at our next board meeting to convene a collaborative constituent committee. And what this is a committee made up of all the people that are here in the audience, parents, teachers, community members, people who want to be part of this committee to discuss all this. It's even more of a collaborative and collective approach than a study session would be. And a study session can come out of that. That committee can say, we're ready now to have the study session. This is what we've come up with together, and now we're ready to present the board with what our recommendation is as a collaborative constituent community. I don't know what I have to do to direct you all to bring a resolution to establish this collaborative constituent committee to convene. Done. That's it. Okay, so by next meeting, you'll bring the resolution along with some timelines and some additional information. Absolutely. Okay, so I hear you all. I hear you on both sides of this issue, and this allows for the most amount of input and collaboration moving forward. Okay? I believe that's all my comments for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really appreciate all who came out and spoke tonight. It was good to hear your opinions. I do have one thing to say about equity. I know a lot of you are up in arms and concerned about that. And I've done a lot of soul searching because I know, I've seen that cartoon, you take a box away and you gave it to someone else, and we don't want that taken from our kids. But I finally realized my oldest child has learning. She has special needs. I have 5 kids. And I spent an extra amount of time giving Katie help. And I might start crying. I spent a lot of time helping her with her homework, doing things for her. My other 4 children are gate kids. They didn't need my help. So that is equity. I mean, should I have neglected Katie so I could give everybody 5-10 minutes? And then they don't need me. But Katie needed my help. And so I want, as you think about equity, think about it that way. We are giving the children who need extra help, we're giving them the extra time, the things that they need. We still support the other children, but we're giving those who need it a little bit more. And that's the end of my comment. And we'll go to Dr. De Leon's report now.
In respect of time, it is getting very, very late, and I have a very long report. I am going to ask if the board would allow me to table my report to the next meeting.
Everybody okay with that?
Are we good?
Yeah, I'm using my jammies by now. So
I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will move to Dr. Kelson, who will do a presentation on our multi-tiered support system and her team.
Thank you. I'd like to invite my co-presenters, Mr. Eric Osborne and Ms. Andrea Moncayo, who is a teacher at Sandburg Middle School, to join me at the podium. Thank you both for all of your work to make this happen. So multi-tiered systems of support have been in place in Glendora Unified for a time, and there it is. You can see a wise and long-standing set of belief statements here that people who have been here for longer than I humbly tell me are a part of the fiber of who we are and of what we do. It's important to note that within those belief statements, there are principles that connect to what we're going to present on this evening, such as education, empowering students to meet the challenges of our ever-changing world, and how challenges that lead to successful experiences build confidence and self-worth. And in many ways, tonight's presentation is about those two things. With that said, we are here this evening in a technical sense to provide the board and the community and those present here this evening an update on District Goal 1.3, which is spelled out here in these 4 aspects. Continue to ensure excellent teaching, expanding acceleration and enrichment in an individualized way. And the 2 most significantly connected to this presentation are the last 2. Engaging committees to hear the voices of the people we serve around these topics, and to continue to improve student performance and wellness. I'd like now to pass the clicker to Mr. Osborne.
So you might be asking yourself, what is a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS? You can think of it as an umbrella. It's a systemic approach to supporting all students. It has one goal. The goal is to intervene at the earliest stage so that we're putting supports in place to ensure that all students are rising to the top. And there's several categories within the MTSS because we look at the whole child. So as we discuss a little bit further tonight, you'll notice that we'll show charts that have the following categories of academics and attendance, social emotional needs, and behavior. It is a tricky... So Glendora has a long-standing commitment to providing excellent education for our students. Our professional and supportive staff are the heart of our organization. Their work impacts all 3 categories of the MTSS, but most importantly, it impacts the lives of our students. Our programs, as you can see on the chart, are all designed to meet the needs of all students. Our partners come alongside families, students, and our staff in order to support the academic and social emotional needs of our students.
Osborne, so in preparing to speak this evening, it became important to our team to acknowledge some national trends, understanding that we serve the community of Glendora. However, we are really seeing a response to what has been a global challenge with this pandemic. So first, a poll, 58% of our teachers, after teaching online and through distance learning last year, are more confident in trying out new ways to engage students. That's a positive outcome from what we've lived through. However, on the other side, nationally, 37% of K-12 employees are considering a job change because the challenges that are being brought to light as a result of the state of the world we're living in are challenging teachers, and the sources are all cited there. The third quote is one from an article that a colleague shared that our presentation team read, among others. The needs this year among our students and our staff are different because people are grieving. And if people don't have a chance to talk it out, they will act it out. So Mr. Osborne is going to share a bit about some local information specific to
So a few of the board members mentioned the concern for students' mental health, and truly our schools are the epicenter for the effects of mental health and also critical service providers for our students and our families. So since the beginning of the school year, we've actually referred out 101 students to receive mental health supports through the district, and this is thanks to our service providers and several staff members. Current and new initiatives. Our current and new initiatives have been created or expanded upon in response to our student need. Our interventionists at our elementary level have taken on the extra role of supporting students in math, where previously it was simply in English, reading, and language. We've expanded our gifted and talented education program, our professional development for staff opportunities, and our family education course offerings. Our attendance approach is supportive in nature, not punitive. Our goal program provides flexibility for students and their families. We've hired 7 new student support specialists. These are clinicians, therapists at our school sites to support our students and our staff. The impact of these individuals is insurmountable. For example, we've had 1,802 positive life skill conversations with students since the beginning of the school year. We've had 2,084 positive social skill conversations with students. 1,715 of Tier 1 and 2 student support. So these are low-level conversations with kids, supporting them, students that are dealing with anxiety and depression, kind of returning to school. And we've had 1,236 conversations of support with staff. We also have a generally safe and supportive and always a student-centered environment.
So I wanted to talk tonight a little bit about what I'm experiencing and seeing in the classroom personally as a teacher. And it kind of goes back to last year going through the online teaching. And as teachers, we always use this in education, that we're trying to fly this plane as we're also building it. And we definitely did that last year. But on top of that, teachers are also looking at the next plane that they're trying to get on. And some of us could not have predicted what that plane was going to entail for this year. So the 2 questions that I had to ask myself, and we just naturally had to ask, what was the academic loss going to look like? And what was this going to do to our students engaging emotionally back into our school system? So I want to focus first on the academics. From a teacher perspective, we are seeing that there are students that had success with this safer at home experience. They are the ones who are turning in the work, and they have adjusted, and they're doing fine in the classroom. But we also have the complete opposite, and there is a really big gap that we're trying to fill right now. Teachers in a normal year are able to kind of gather everyone together, and then with one hand we're able to kind of bring along the ones who are kind of falling behind. But this year it's more of a challenge because they're all kind of spread out. So we do see that in our teachers right now. Let's see, sorry. Oh, and the other thing is teachers are so hard on themselves sometimes. We are the ones who hold the standard, and we set the standards for ourselves. And when we feel like we're not meeting those standards, we look at it as we're failing. And I think a lot of teachers need to hear right now that to feel that permission to continue to build that community in the classroom. The standards will be there, and we will get our students where we want them in time. But I'm very lucky that at my site, we are encouraged to take our time getting back into it, having our students relearn what school is all about, because we can't see those academic results until we feel that. So the second point was our behavior. And I'm not going to say something that a lot of us have already heard from teachers within our district, teachers outside of our district, within our nation, things that are posted on media and articles, that behavior is a huge problem, and there are some extreme cases at all levels. So I don't want to kind of brush that it's a minor problem. A lot of us know that it's a big concern. But tonight I do want to focus more on some of the positives that are taking place in light of those events. So, personal story, at our school site at Sandburg, we did have our bathrooms vandalized. And for me, that specific week, it just felt like it was another dark cloud. It was just one of those clouds. And some good came out of that, though. It allowed an opportunity to have conversation with our students, to hear from their perspective, the students who were not involved. And this one specific student shared that they felt disappointed in their friend. And the two words that really stood out to me were disappointed and friend. And I think it has allowed me to reflect, and I'm sure a lot of teachers, to feel that disappointment, and grief from the year before, to feel that grief and disappointment, whatever your view is about returning back and how we have returned back, and for those students to also feel that grief and disappointment. But I also like the word that they used, friend, because that's what we need to hear. We need someone to give us hope, and I think that student gave that person hope that you are still our friends. We have room to forgive and to grow so that we can move forward. So we do need to allow our students to process and continue to give them those opportunities. So I'm not the best memorizer, so I wrote something down that I think is important to kind of wrap up these 2 points. But I said that I know that every teacher right now is trying their hardest to make students feel like this is their school, their safe space, and their home away from home. We are all aware that there are daily challenges that we are doing our best to overcome, but what keeps us going are those moments of hope that at the core of our schools there is a strong heart, a heart where students are ready to step in to help, a heart where curiosity and excitement of learning in the classroom is stirring back up again, and most importantly, I see a heart where kids are getting to be kids again.
Andrea, thank you so much for speaking on behalf of our teaching staff. I know that many of them could not join us this evening in person, and certainly appreciate the words that you've shared. So where do we go with all of this? We are living in a situation where many of the children we serve are challenged by what they've seen, by what they are living through, how they feel, what school has become for them since they've been back can be very engaging and very positive and very relevant. It can also be at times lonely, frustrating, challenging beyond what their abilities might represent, maybe because they simply didn't have a consistent Wi-Fi for the months when they were learning at home. It could be just something as simple, or it could be things, as we've heard this evening from so many of the community members who came out, it could be tied to much more complex issues. So our team is moving ahead and wanted to talk this evening with the community and all of you trustees, Superintendent De Leon, and cabinet colleagues about where it is we'd like to go. We want to continue to expand the work of supporting our students in gaining skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, those life skills, responsibility, those self-awareness skills that really are fundamental to their success as adults. We want to take a look at all of the ways in which our students have learned to use technology. We want to expand their knowledge to inspire them to continue to use those tools to solve problems. We will continue our work to reach out to parents and families in the area, sending surveys and making sure that we offer sessions that are relevant to them. And after quite a bit of planning and listening and participating in the meetings of the Glendora Unified Board of Trustees, it has become increasingly evident from listening to our community that the challenges that face us are going to require a very unique expertise. I have heard a number of people speaking this evening whom I respect, asking about the work of a consultant coming into the district to engage many adults in a process of figuring out how to move forward in the complex, really, reality that 2021 is presenting to us. I speak as an individual and as an employee of this district that those complexities are acknowledged, and they are significant for the adults who serve the children in this community and for adults such as Andrea and Eric who serve children across the country. So I wanted to simply acknowledge that the input of this community will be a vital part of that process, as it has been. The nuances that are specific to life in Southern California, life in the East San Gabriel Valley, life in the city of Glendora, those nuances will absolutely be a part of the expertise of the person who we would like to hire. Ms. Nicole Anderson is a representative of an organization called the California School Boards Association, or CSBA. They are a nonpartisan group with members from multiple political parties, not just the two that are so commonly given representative voice or choice. And her task with the many public, private, nonprofit organizations that she serves is to help communities do exactly what I heard people asking us to do this evening, which is to do this well and to do it with respect to the children in this community. So I wanted to take just a minute to address those very significant concerns and offer that as part of some of the future plans that we'd like to do. Continuing those small group family education opportunities, continue to increase the measures of proactive safety that are in place on our campuses, continuing to talk with each other, to work together, to going back, all the way back to those essential beliefs that we started with, and Eric, you don't have to click back, to see to it that we honor the work that we have set out to do for the students in this community. So thank you for listening to our presentation, the update on Board Goal 1.3 about multi-tiered systems of support. If you have any comments or questions, we welcome them.
Thank you very much. Dr. Fernando?
What a great presentation, and it's always great to hear from one of our teachers, and you know that I love Sandburg, so it's extra special to hear from a teacher at Sandburg. I have 2 diehard Spartans in my house, so anyway, just making that clear. You know, you talked about in one of your slides about the national realities of resignation. I forget, the pandemic has 37% of K through 12 employees considering a job change. You know, we've been hearing about this term, the Great Resignation. That's happening in higher education, it's happening in public education, it's happening. So talk to me a little bit about what does that mean from what you're hearing? When people are considering a job change, at least as you hear about it, What are the reasons for that job change?
So I'll start, but I'm going to look to some of our colleagues who are closer to the daily dialogue amongst our school staff as an example. Some of the challenges are, or the realities were brought about by people realizing that what they had been simply doing as part of a rhythmic sort of momentum of life, like this is what I've done every day for all these years, have changed. And some of the being at home, working from home, shifted those priorities. I have heard, and could not cite a source currently, but I have heard that a number of families' primary caregivers have had to leave the workforce because of the challenges of filling in the educational process, or in the situations where there are medical situations of a family that may not be most safely treated in a hospital setting, that those people have opted to stay at home to help provide that care. I think in addition, it's important to hear from Andrea just maybe a day in the life. You talked a little bit about that gray cloud, the day that unfortunately the TikTok challenge news got out.
Yeah, I would say from personal experience, probably it could be generational too, like what we're experiencing, just a lot of opportunities that we could look at. I think for me last year, I thought, wow, like working behind a computer is not that bad, because I know it and I feel comfortable. So then we have some extra pressures that, like I mentioned, that no one could have predicted or expected. So coming back, you're having to retrain yourself, and you kind of had a taste of what else life could look like. And I think that's it could be that too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The other question I had is just for the public's understanding. We have a slide on current new initiatives, and I know that Dr. De Leon has talked to us about this increased focus on student support specialists. Can you explain to the public what is a student support specialist and what do they do?
The student support specialist is a clinician, so it's a highly trained therapist that is at our school sites. Their primary goal is to support students in a few areas. Number one, what we would call tier 1 and 2, which are kind of those students who are re-engaging with school, that are struggling, have anxiety, maybe some depression, and returning to school. So the support specialists are meeting with them. They are creating wellness rooms and opening up their offices or their classrooms at lunchtime for kids to kind of re-engage and to be a support. They are supporting a lot of wellness initiatives throughout the district. They also are helping connect families to resources. And so, for example, at the elementary level, where we haven't had this position prior to this year, it was really the principal who would run the entire show. And just due to the need of students and families, our support specialists at the elementary level are there to really engage and be that contact person for a family or a child who might need it for a short period of time, or maybe for a longer, more extended period of time, and they could really intervene and help connect students and families with the various resources and partnerships that we have through the district.
And then just the final question I see here in future plans, Innovation Task Force. There was a question earlier on by a member of the public who I think is in the audience about what we are doing around STEM education. So I think it might be just very briefly highlighting to that member of the public that we are actually doing things around STEM education.
Thank you very much. That's really a full evening's presentation.
Okay.
And yes, I will do my best to address it now. So STEM education stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And when one thinks about what is it that Glendora Unified is doing, there are some really significant things happening around us. We have more students than we've had in recent memory participating in career technical education programs, in training that directly ties to a job that is in demand. Those courses are provided by industry professionals who happen to teach for the San Gabriel Valley ROP. We have a number of science teachers, and Ms. Moncayo is a great example of a technology teacher who are bringing students back together to do all of that creative problem solving, figuring things out in new and, dare I say, innovative ways. We have an engineering course at the high school. There is a architectural design component. They're very close cousins, architecture and engineering. And yes, math continues to be a significant part of the curriculum here in Glendora Unified. So when we look at, immediate investments in things like teacher training and staff preparation to do that work, after a year apart, in terms of the safer at home work that we did, we were all still interacting frequently throughout the day. However, now we have an innovation task force that is going to be getting together groups of teachers from across levels, some experts from local industry, workforce development, those types of groups, to be able to look at what the skills are that are in demand for students in the jobs that they will encounter, many of which have not yet been invented, and to be most effectively, and I would say excellently, prepared to pursue what it is they want to pursue. The work that we're doing with Ms. Anderson is on a very small scale. That's a different type of frame where we're going to look at a trainer of trainers model, spend a year preparing, knowing exactly how to approach the various constituencies that are represented in our community and our region, and to be able to very professionally and very appropriately go forward with that work when it is time. So 2 different examples about the teacher training and some of the innovation that's happening. Welcome.
Okay. Mr. Ellenson.
Thank you. Thank you three for presenting tonight. I know it's quite late. Thank you for bearing with us. It certainly is worth it from my perspective, and always wonderful to hear from a teacher. So thank you, Ms. Moncayo, for being here and sharing that directly with us. Cut through all the middlemen and just tell us exactly what's going on in the classroom, which I know is not easy every day. But this is fantastic. The intentionality that you have all put into the future plans here, which I think are most exciting. In every presentation that the board gets, I love how it's tied back to one of our board goals. That's outstanding. And to see a vision come together for what the future of Glendora Unified is going to be. That's what the board's been most intentional about for a while now. And that's been clear direction to Dr. De Leon, as we want vision planning for this district. And all of these presentations, I get to see everyone in this district doing their part to paint this very clear picture in my mind of what we're going to be. And knowing how great we already are, knowing that we have the ability to achieve that, it's not just this pipe dream, it's attainable for us. And it's exciting that we're moving at a rapid pace towards it. Thank you, Dr. Kelson, for bringing some information about Ms. Anderson and the work that she's going to do as part of this, right? Consultation and training for pertinent staff on how to support student success. The appropriate use of consultants is always necessary and helpful in doing that. And thank you for sharing the additional information, given that it was raised to us by so many members of the public tonight. That was helpful for us to have that additional information beyond what we read in the board agenda. And finally, to add on to STEM and career tech ed, thank you for asking that, and thank you for talking about it. I'm always eager to find opportunities to bring that up, and take this moment to brag a little bit that Dr. Kelson, I believe you worked with ROP to create some after-school, could you give 30 seconds on that, the after-school ROP programs or CTE programs?
I can. So high school students' really number one challenge is how to do everything they want to do. And expanding a school day can be one of those ways. So we have a number of career technical education programs during the regular school day. We, in partnership with ROP and with the tremendous support of Dr. Brummett, the counselors at GHS, and Ms. Norell, we piloted a set of after-school classes. They are in high-demand fields: health and medical, pharmacy technician, computer programming. I believe the language they're focusing on is Java. And we tried 2 others that were somewhat low enrolled, but we're not giving up on them. and I won't even call them out because they're still very viable careers. So our students are doing their regular full day of classes at the high school for the most part, and then participating in this after-school program. I just finished authorizing ROP to do some purchases for those programs of things that if you walked into a business in one of those fields, you would expect to see exactly those tools in the hands of people doing that job, or in our case, learning how to do that job. So very, very thankful to Bridget Hernandez and the team, Dr. Downing at ROP, for really kind of taking a risk on us with an idea that I'm pretty confident will work.
Thank you. And I think the key part was that they were enrolled and students were interested in all of these. And when this got brought up at the ROP board, these 6 other districts were like, what? Your students are staying after school to sign up for these in like high numbers? And I said, yes, they are. They're interested in them, and so they're all like, how did you do that? So I was very proud that Glendora Unified was the one leading the way on that. So I had to add that in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Reuter?
Thank you very much. I'd like to piggyback a little bit on Mr. Ellenson's comments about the intentionality of this presentation as far as our board goals. And I know that this is a big team effort, but when I see these these charts and these systems and processes, sorry if I embarrass you, Mr. Osborne. You're all over. This is these flow charts and these, and it's wonderful. It's refreshing to see it laid out so clearly. What we have been doing, what we're moving towards, because this board is looking for accountability in our board goals. So you make it very easy to understand what we've asked for, what you're working on, and what we're all working towards. So thank you for making it as clear as day. The numbers that you called out in your presentation, many of my colleagues have mentioned that we knew something was going to change this year, that we knew things were going to look a little different, but we didn't really know what exactly that meant. But these referral numbers that Ms. Fernandez provided to us, the student support specialists, the numbers, the 1,800, the 2,000, the 1,700, those are big numbers. Those are really big numbers in Glendora. You know, maybe in other districts this is not as big of a deal, or has been occurring over time. But I think it is surprising to a lot of people in Glendora that our students are being affected this way. So thank you for calling out the numbers that way so that we can understand. We also had 25 public comments tonight, which is a lot of public comments, and I, like my colleagues, are really happy to hear from everybody. I'm glad that we were able to let everyone come up and speak. Going back, and I'm just going to ask some direct questions right now because it was brought up by a couple different members of the community and Mrs. Anderson and her contract that shows up later in the consent items. I'm going to tell you sort of what I understand and then ask a couple of questions. So we've got these goals that we're working on, the future plans, all of that stuff. But there's not really a playbook as far as the future plans based on what we're dealing with right now. What we're dealing with right now is nothing that we've ever dealt with before. So the future is also a little challenging to predict, if you will. So what I understand is that Mrs. Anderson's services are being requested in order to help us chart that path forward.
That is correct. If I may speak to it briefly, what has become highly evident to the planning team and to our leadership group is that we have to do this, as I said earlier, we have to do it well. And this is a planning year for us, so we can take a look at all of the best resources, listen to the voices of all of the constituents we serve, and then work with the community to consider the path forward for the community of Glendora Unified.
And that's in all three of these categories that you mentioned here. That's under the, so there's academic/attendance, social, emotional, and behavior. That she would be working with you under all those different categories that way.
That is correct.
Okay, and is she going to be working with all of the teachers in the district?
Not this year or at this time at all. She has a number of different services that she provides, as I understand it, to other organizations. We have proposed enlisting her services to consider the voices of the community and to help us prepare proposals of the way to go forward with the work that we want to do so that the children in this district have an ever powerful future. Our kids are facing the challenges that you saw on this screen. Our teachers, our counselors, our administrators are facing challenges you wisely described, the complexities of which we haven't ever seen before. And so her expertise from a multifaceted perspective gives us the opportunity to craft this very well and to prepare to present it in a public forum such as this, and I would guess some others, when it is ready to be presented.
So does that mean that she's working with cabinet level only, or cabinet level and principals? Like what? I'm just trying to be as transparent as I can to the community who asked some questions about this contract.
Thank you. So 2 members of the extended cabinet, Dr. Jennifer Prince and Mr. Eric Osborne, both recent principals in the district, now serving as executive directors, are primarily tasked with taking in the content, which last time we met, they were learning about the various complex aspects of any human system, an ecosystem, a political system, pick a system. The time before that, we learned about the power of respecting an individual's story, who they are, where they come from, how that makes their individuality important, and how it makes it part of the larger community as well. So I attend when I can to be a support to these 2 executive directors who have done tremendous work with school staffs. It's different to do that at a district level. So there isn't a plan right now to, in this current year, if ever, it depends on what the committees that are involved decide to put Ms. Anderson.
Okay, and again, there's no way to ask, but directly, it seems that there have been members of the community that are concerned as far as the equity piece of her experience or whatever, background. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say whatever flippantly, background, the equity piece. What I'm hearing you say is that she's not being hired to come and no, that's not it either. I'm sorry. I'm processing all of this as we get through this conversation. Can you talk about as far as the equity piece, or could you try and help me understand how that fits into what your goal with hiring her is, or not? Just help me understand that a little bit better.
Sure, I'll do my best.
Yeah.
So our purposes as a team are seeing to it that, just as this presentation was designed, that each of those fundamental beliefs are considered anytime we look at work that impacts the classroom, work that impacts the children in those classrooms. So if you, and I'll give you a related example that's really not related but would serve a purpose. So if you were to look at my resume right now, everything on there is very transparent. Some of those things that I've listed and accomplished on that resume don't come into the work that I'm doing tonight. The way I look at Ms. Anderson's presentation of herself on the website is she has a varied and wide set of experiences and skills. However, in the case of Glendora Unified, we have asked her to teach us how to do the important work that so many people spoke about this evening in a way that honors everyone involved.
Okay. I reserve the right to ask more questions.
Well, I don't really have any questions. I just have one thing, and that STEM should be STEAM. And we had that great grant for art, and a lot of the teachers were trained in bringing art and teaching it with the classroom in all aspects. And so that's important. I just wanted to mention that. But thank you. That was an excellent presentation. It was very enjoyable, all of you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, let's see now. Our discussion action items. Number 1, approve/ratify the local indicators as a required part of a new California Department of Education policy at this time. Dr. Kelson?
I got to move first.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
A second?
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Reuter moved and Dr. Fendo second. Will you please explain to us?
Thank you, Mr. Folk. I believe you have some slides that would have been emailed to Mr. Carter. If not, I'll go ahead and begin. I've got my notes here. So, yes, so trustees, community, and esteemed colleagues as well. The state of California has an accountability system that is definitely multifaceted. It is reflected in the California dashboard. This has been a part of the local control funding formula that went into place in 2013, and as this board would recall, the local control and accountability plan, which was reviewed, presented to the community, and adopted in June of this previous year. So this evening, I get to give you a brief overview of the local indicators. And in front of you on the dais, you should have a printout from the California dashboard and an extra copy that's called California Dashboard Local Indicator. At this time, the website, this is a relatively new function of the California Dashboard. It's been anticipated for a while. However, the technology and the availability of it in this manner is very new. So I've added the parts of the document that you have in front of you that are not entirely visible for you in that appendix, if you will. So briefly, school districts are accountable to 5 priority areas as part of a local indicator. I heard that word a number of times this evening from our public about the significance and importance of remembering to focus on what is happening locally as well. The first is about the appropriate assignment of teachers, access to curriculum-aligned instructional materials, and safe, clean, and functional school environments. Glendora has been accountable to and has reported all appropriately assigned teachers, access to instructional materials, and facilities in good condition. The second priority area is about the implementation of state academic standards. In your narrative under priority 2, you will see all of those curricular areas. And with the state adopted frameworks and the list of approved textbooks, Glendora has made tremendous progress. We tabled the adoption, however, we tabled the adoption of the science textbooks because we were about halfway through when the pandemic hit. This report will tell the state that we believe we made the right decision because we have more access to one-to-one computers, which many of the new science curricula are, and the best things, as the teachers have explained it, are available when students have access to a computer. So priority 3 is about family engagement. They call it parent engagement in this document. That item has 3 components. They are building relationships, building partnerships for student outcomes, and seeking input for decision making. The way Glendora did this year, you'll remember it, all of this news is reported in our other LCAP. We're required to do this extra report. We sent out what was then called an LCAP stakeholder survey to students and to staff. We had about 900 people respond to the adult survey, and 900 students from 4 through 12 respond. So we've reported back, again, the information contained in those surveys. 2 more priority areas in the local indicator. They are about school climate. For this one, we pulled some nationally normed items also from those surveys, and it is required as one of the only measures in the state of California that is common across school districts that districts use the California Healthy Kids Survey. Last year, the survey was not administered. It's usually in every other year. So many districts across the state are administering that to determine programs that will best suit the needs to students in the secondary level who want to participate and whose families have authorized us to help them do that. The 7th and final priority in the local indicator is access to a broad course of study. Glendora Unified has reported on this, and I'd like to remind the board and community using the college and career indicator, which includes performance on academic tests, as well as a number of additional measures, such as the completion of a seal of biliteracy, the completion of a career technical education pathway, and many other facets that as we are reporting and demonstrating that we are working on behalf of our students, that you'll get to hear about soon. So in brief, those are the local indicators that will be reported to the California dashboard. They are, at this time, all based on things that have already been made publicly available to the community. However, this extra step puts Glendora in good stead with the other districts in the state that have opted to complete their local indicator report as part of this new LCAP cycle.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? All right. Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this presentation. I know they like to change this every year on you, so thank you very much for your flexibility. And I really want to thank the community. 900 parents and 900 students is significant in a year coming off of the year that we just had. To get that many people to re-engage or engage is no small feat, so I'm sure that your team worked very hard on engagement. Is this something that is available to the public to be able to see? It's on our website, or will be.
It will be. Right now, anyone in the public could go to California School Dashboard and see Glendora Unified.
Yes, the little gas gauges and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
This component is due in final form on the 15th.
Okay.
And then I anticipate the state will do some magical things involving computer programming and graphics and have this specific local indicator report viewable for the public.
Okay, so this isn't something that would be appropriate necessarily for us to put on our website. It's more appropriate for it to land on the state's website once they have do they approve it, or do they just zip it?
Thank you for asking. We certainly could post it in news and events as quickly as the website company would allow. We can also send it out to everyone in the community through our Parent Square. I would be happy to do that.
You don't need to send it through Parent Square. It's a pretty bulky document. I don't know that everybody, but the people that are interested, I'd like for them to be able to have access because again, transparency and accountability this way, this is literally what it comes down to when it eventually rolls up into our funding this way. So I'll leave it up to you if you think it's most appropriate to put it on our website in this form until the state California School Dashboard uploads it onto theirs, or I don't know how long that process will take. But I do know that there are people who will be interested and would like to read this.
And I know our team is thankful for the readers that we have.
Yes, indeed. It's a lot of work. It is meant to be read. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you very much. It was great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. That is approved. Then we'll move on to the consent items. The board of Education may consider consent items as a whole or as individual divisions. Any item may be removed by a member of the board for discussion. Are there any items that need to be removed? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve all of the agenda consent items? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passed. Okay, and then that brings us to adjournment. May I please have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion